Hey, what's up? John Sonmez here, and today we're continuing Seneca's letters to Lucilius. This is a big series. It's a long series. You want to go and check out the playlist to watch from the beginning and see all of the letters here. So basically, this is Seneca. Letters he wrote to Lucilius, kind of his student, and I am reading them and giving you some commentary. Now, I have no expertise in Greek or any kind of, Greek or Roman, any of that, but I am a student of Stoic philosophy, and I like to consider myself a philosopher of sorts. So what I'm doing is just giving you, trying to translate this as much as I can to kind of simplify it as I do, and then give you my ideas and my thoughts on it. I thought this would be fun. A lot of you requested this, and so let's go. All right, so real quick here, though, you want to click the subscribe button. You want to click the bell so you don't miss any of the videos. It's like 100 or something letters here. We're on number, if I can read my Roman numerals, I believe it is 14, and it is on the reasons for withdrawing from the world. So it starts off, verse 1, I confess that we have an inborn affection for our body. I confess that we are entrusted with its guardianship. I do not maintain that the body is not to be indulged at all, but I maintain that we must not be slaves to it. He will have many masters who makes his body his master, who is over fearful on its behalf, who judges everything according to the body. So this is really interesting. What he's basically saying here is that you've got a body. We have an affection for our body. Obviously, that means that, we want to take care of our own self, right? Our own flesh. But he's saying that, yes, we're guardians over it. But if it's and you're going to indulge it some, right? I mean, you're going to eat some nice food. You're going to take care of yourself. You're going to have the pleasures of the flesh and that, all of those things. But here's the thing. He's saying if you're a slave to it, what's going to happen is you're actually going to have multiple masters. You're going to be a slave to multiple things. And if you think about this, right, he's going to expound upon this a little bit, but if you think about this, if you're a slave to hunger, for instance, right, you're going to be a slave to what? You're going to have, food is going to master over you, right? You're going to lose your self-discipline and self-control, right? You're going to have masters that way. If you're a slave to sexual pleasures, temptation, right, all these women, right, for you guys are going to be masters over you, okay? If you're a slave to whatever it is, right, if you let your, essentially, your primal nature be your master, you're not just going to have your body be your master, but every single master that it obeys, every single craving, every single urge, every kind of desire, you're going to be bound by, you're going to have all these masters, right? And so most of us have experienced that in life, whether it be from some kind of addiction, whether it be a drug addiction, alcohol addiction, porn addiction, or whatever it is, food addiction, all those addictions, what those things do is they create masters for us. So we are not the master of our life. And one of the things that I'm a big proponent of is gaining freedom in life. I've got a freedom playlist, which you can check out. The link will be in the description as well. But in that playlist, you can see my definition of freedom and how important it is to me. And one of the key things I talk about is this idea that you have to be master of yourself. You have to be able to decide what you want to do. My definition of freedom is the ability to do what you will. Okay, and that sounds really simple, but what that means is that whatever my will is, I have to be able to do it, and I'm not letting other people stop me. I'm not letting myself stop me. And if I am basically a slave to all these different masters, if I can't control my desires and I don't have discipline, then I'm not gonna be doing my will. I'll be doing what I don't want to do as opposed to what I do. Number 2, we should conduct ourselves not as if we ought to live for the body, but as if we could not live without it. Our too great love for it makes us restless with fears, burdens us with cares, and exposes us to insults. Virtue is held too cheap by the man who counts his body too dear. We should cherish the body with the greatest care, but we should also be prepared when reason, self-respect, and duty demand the sacrifice to deliver it even to the flames. So he's saying that there's a higher ideal here. He's saying that, it's great. We want to take care of ourselves. We appreciate our bodies. It's a vehicle that we need to get through this life. But we should even be willing to give it up for the demand of sacrifice, to deliver it even to the flames, right? I'd rather live a shorter life that gets ended abruptly, okay, than to live a life in fear as a coward and never live a full life, right? And this is something that I think you have to wrestle with in Stoic philosophy, because Stoic philosophy is essentially saying this, right? And that's where the virtue comes in, is that if you're living in such a way where you're so protective of your body, you're so protective of yourself from physical harm, again, we could relate this to fear, you're not really going to be living a life. So he says, number 3, let us, however, insofar as we can, avoid discomforts as well as dangers, and withdraw to safe ground by thinking continually how we may repel all objects of fear. If I am not mistaken, there are 3 main classes of these. 1, we fear what we want, we fear sickness, and we fear the troubles which result from the violence of the stronger, right? So he's basically saying here, what are the 3 classes of fear, right? And then also, like, he's saying don't just go and sacrifice your body for no reason, right? Obviously avoid discomforts, obviously avoid danger, obviously try to be safe, right? Don't do stupid, foolish stuff. Okay, and I would agree with that. And so he's saying, like, what are the 3 fears here? 1, we fear what we want. That's interesting. Do we fear what we want? I think we certainly do. We're afraid because we're afraid we're not going to get it. And we're afraid what will happen when we do get it. We fear was the second one here. He says the second one is that we fear sickness, which is true, right? Again, in relation to the body, okay? And then the third one is that we fear people that are essentially stronger than us, the violence from the stronger, which is true, okay? Number 4, and of all these, that which shakes us most is the dread which hangs over us from our neighbor's ascendancy. For it is accompanied by great outcry and uproar. But the natural evils which I have mentioned, want and sickness, steal upon us silently with no shock of terror to the eye or to the ear. The other kind of evil comes, so to speak, in the form of a huge parade. Surrounding it is a retinue of swords and fire and chains and a mob of beasts to be let loose upon the disemboweled entrails of men. So what he's saying here is that the first 2, right, the fear of want and sickness, those ones we don't really notice that much. But the fear of our neighbors fucking killing us, someone stronger than us beating us up and taking our shit, that one we fear because we see that. It's right out in the open. The sickness, it's a hidden fear. You don't see that coming. The want, again, you don't see that coming, but we immediately fear the threat of violence against us, especially during these times, right? Picture to yourself under his head the prison, the cross, the rack, the hook, and the stake, which they drive straight through a man until it protrudes from his throat. Think of human limbs torn apart by chariots driven in opposite directions, of the terrible shirt smeared and interwoven with inflammable materials, and then all of the other contrivances devised by cruelty, in addition to those which I have mentioned. Again, like, today, like, you're afraid maybe you're going to get shot or beat up. Then you're afraid of, like, all kinds of terrifying shit. I mean, it wasn't just dying, right? It was, like, literally having shit shoved through you till it protrudes through your throat, being torn apart by chariots, being lit on fire, dipped in fucking oil, having hot oil poured down your throat, fucking they stuff honey up your ass and you're gonna, like, eaten slowly by insects, all kinds of fucked up shit, flayed alive, right? Getting your skin peeled off like a potato peeler. The fear was a little bit stronger then, right? Now it's kind of like, I'm going to the wrong neighborhood, I might get shot. Getting shot was probably no big deal. Seneca would have been like, yeah, fucking shoot me. I don't really fucking care. It's like, so just don't flay me alive. So, and the reason why I mention this is just so you get, kind of get the context here. Number 6, it is not surprising then if our greatest terror is of such fate, for it comes in many shapes and paraphernalia that are terrifying. For just as a torturer accomplishes more in proportion to the number of instruments which he displays, indeed, the spectacle overcomes those who would have patiently withstood the suffering. Maybe if you were actually in the situation where you're being, like, torn apart by a chariot, you'd be okay. You'd actually withstand it. You'd be fine. Like, it would probably fucking hurt and you would die. But you wouldn't be, like, reduced to a terror inflicted mass, right? You wouldn't be, like, on your knees crying. Those other troubles are, of course, not less serious. I mean, hunger, thirst, ulcers of the stomach, and fever that parches our very bowels. They are, however, secret. They have no bluster, and no heralding. But these, like huge arrays of war, prevail by virtue of their display and their equipment. Let us therefore see to it that we abstain from giving offense. It is sometimes the people that we ought to fear, or sometimes a body of influential oligarchs in the Senate, And if the method of governing the state is such that most of the business is done by that body, and sometimes individuals equipped with power by the people and against the people, it is burdensome to keep the friendship of all such persons. It is enough not to make enemies of them. Okay? So the wise man will never provoke the anger of those in power. Nay, he will even turn his course precisely as he would turn from a storm if he were steering a ship. He's got some wise words here. He's basically like this, right? Don't fuck with police, with dentists, and lawyers. Those are people that can fuck you, and you can't do a damn thing about it, okay? And you can think about the dentist one for a while, but those are the people you should not mess with, okay? Now, what he's saying here also, which is a pretty good, it's kind of hidden in here, which is basically to say, okay, it's enough to not make enemies of them, right? And you have to recognize some people today, especially a lot of millennials today, no offense, but I'm telling you straight, you don't recognize fucking chain of command and power. When someone has power, you need to defer to that power. But like when you're in a position of power, you get to exercise that power. Now, hopefully you show some magnanimity in exercising your power, and you show some mercy to people, and you do it in a way that will create goodwill and not bitter enemies. But you can't expect other people to do that. When you are in a position of power, you get to decide what's going to happen. When you're not in a position of power, you need to recognize that and back the fuck off. When you see someone who's in power, you just need to not piss them off. Now, there's some good people, and maybe you should make some alliances and friendships, but just remember, a person who is in alliance with you, that you built a friendship, you're in a precarious situation. Because if they feel betrayed or slighted in some way, now you're fucked. Now you're going to be the first one getting the skewer stuck through your ass, okay? Because now you're in the situation of betrayal. But if you just have not pissed them off, if you don't have any agenda and you don't have any alliance with them, then you can get away with a little bit more, and it's not betrayal, because betrayal will get you really fucked. You see what I'm saying? So it's not betrayal anymore. So it's really just an important lesson, right? When you think about it, like there's some people that you want to make friends with, but often you want to be careful before you make friends with people in power, right? Because especially if you're going to be, you can't be friends with all of them. They're going to have mixed alliances, okay? And second of all, because you will be, it's always like the king's favorite, the king's favorite courtesan, right? The king's favorite, companion who gets it the worst, right? Because even the suspicion of betrayal. When you traveled by Sicily, you crossed the straits. The reckless pilot scorned the blustering south wind, the wind which roughens the Sicilian sea and forces it into choppy currents. He sought not the shore on the left, but the strand hard by the place where Charybdis throws the sea into confusion. Your more careful pilot, however, questions those who know the locality as to the tides and the meaning of the clouds. He holds his course far from that region notorious for its swirling waters. Our wise man does the same. He shuns a strong man who may be injurious to him, making a point of not seeming to avoid him, because an important part of one's safety lies in not seeking safety openly, for what one avoids one condemns. Some really good wisdom here. This is where the shit gets really good. He's saying that there's a captain, right? And he's sailing, you don't even know where, but in Sicilian seas, and he's saying that some of them, like, they try to avoid it, they try to figure out from the locals where to go, but the smart captain, he just avoids this shit completely. He's not even going to get involved in that shit, okay? He's not even going to take the chance. He doesn't need to prove any shit. So the same thing here. He's saying here, again, we talked about power. He uses the phrase, the strong man. But what he's saying is someone who has more power than you. And what he's saying here is that specifically, don't just avoid them, okay? But you do it in a way where you're not seeming to avoid him. We should therefore look about us and see how we may protect ourselves from the mob. And first of all, we should have no cravings like theirs, for rivalry results in strife. Okay? Again, let us possess nothing that can be snatched from us to the great profit of a plotting foe. Let there be as little booty as possible on your person. No one sets out to shed the blood of his fellow men for the sake of bloodshed. At any rate, very few. More murderers speculate on their profits than give vent to hatred. If you're empty-handed, the highwayman passes you by. Even along an infested road, the poor may travel in peace. So he's giving some wise wisdom to the people of the day there, but I would say it equally applies to us, both in a physical sense and also in a mental sense, right? Look at someone like Tai Lopez. Okay, now again, I have nothing against the dude. I haven't actually met the dude in person. Actually, I guess I met him one time, but I don't have an opinion on him one way or the other. Some people really hate his guts, but that's why I'm bringing him up as an example. I think he's actually a pretty cool guy. As far as I know about him, again, and I believe what he's teaching is pretty legit. He's a damn good marketer, but I don't know him, so I'm not going to judge him. Okay, but regardless, some people really hate his guts. Why? Because he shows off all this shit. Because he's in my garage and he's got his car there. He's got these beautiful women. All this shit, right? Some people they really want what he has, but at the same time, he's creating those kind of envious relationships where people would kind of stab him in the back to kind of get what he has, right? Again, part of his marketing strategy. I'm not knocking it. Probably a really cool guy, right? But I'm just saying, you have to think about these things. All right, number 10. Next, we must follow the old adage and avoid 3 things with special care. And here we go, right? I didn't even remember this was coming. Hatred, jealousy, and scorn. So what are the 3 things we have to avoid? Hatred, jealousy, and scorn, okay? And wisdom alone can show you how this may be done. It is hard to observe a mean. We must be chary of letting the fear of jealousy lead us into becoming the objects of scorn, lest we choose not to stamp others down. We let them think they can stamp us down. The power to inspire fear has caused many men to be in fear. Let us withdraw ourselves in every way, for it is as harmful to be scorned as to be admired. So what he's saying here essentially is this, and this is interesting because I'm not really following this advice, right? For various reasons, but especially in that day, the wisest choice in life, he's saying, is to withdraw. He's saying to try to be famous. Turn on this light. All right, so that's better, I think. I don't know. Anyway, it's not to be famous. It's not to be a villain. Okay, it's not to have people love you or hate you. Okay, it's just as harmful to be scorned as to be admired. He says, right? And because again, right, to be scorned, you're going to have scorn, right? If people hate you, to be admired, it's going to be jealousy. Right? And hatred. Both are going to produce hatred from people. So that's what he's saying. He's saying the wisest path is to that's the safest path, is to not be on either side of that. But I think those 3 things are really interesting. Hatred, jealousy, and scorn. That's something that we should think about all the time. It's where are we causing hatred, jealousy, or scorn? Number 11. We must therefore take refuge in philosophy. This pursuit not only in the eyes of good men, but also in the eyes of those who are even moderately bad, is a sort of protecting emblem. Not only does philosophy protect you in the eyes of good men, but even those who are kind of bad, like moderately bad, it does. Now, why would it protect you against people who are moderately bad? Because they're not stupid. Because they know that you're not an easy mark. Because they know that you're wise. Because they know that they have something potentially to gain from you, and they don't really want to cross a person that may have a lot of friends and may have a lot of wisdom and may be tricky. So that's one way of thinking of it. For speech making at the bar or any other pursuit that claims people's attention wins enemies for a man. But philosophy is peaceful and minds her own business. Men cannot scorn her. She is honored by every profession, even the vilest among them. Evil can never grow so strong, and the nobility of character can never be so plotted against, that the name of philosophy shall cease to be worshipful and sacred. So philosophy itself, however, should be practiced with calmness and moderation. So what he's saying here also is he's saying that basically it's like this. Wisdom, you can replace philosophy with wisdom, okay? Wisdom, even the evil people regard it because it works, because it's smart. Because if you look at all the manipulators in history, if you look at people who are good, charismatic people, right, as leaders or as manipulators, they have the same qualities. They recognize wisdom. They do a lot of wise things. Now, the end purpose may be different, but even the vilest criminal recognizes some sound reason and logic and wisdom, right? And respects that to some degree, okay? Number 12. Very well then, you retort, do you regard the philosophy of Marcus Cato as moderate? Cato's voice strove to check a civil war. Cato parted the swords of maddened chieftains when some fell foul of Pompey and others fell foul of Caesar. Cato defied both parties at once. So Cato, historically, I don't remember the exact history. I'd have to look it up. But essentially, he was not nonviolent. He got into the fray. He was a philosopher, famous. He ended up gutting himself when when Pompey's army took over, or maybe it was Caesar. I can't remember exactly historically. I have to look it up. But to be honest with you. But yeah, that's what he's talking about there. So number 13, nevertheless, one may well question whether, in those days, a wise man ought to have taken any part in public affairs, and ask, what do you mean, Marcus Cato? It is not now a question of freedom. Long since has freedom gone to rack and ruin. The question is whether Caesar or Pompey who controls the state. Why, Cato, should you take sides in that dispute? It is no business of yours. A tyrant is being selected. What does that concern you? Who conquers? The better man may win, but the winner is bound to be the worse man. Interesting. I have referred to Cato's final role, but even in previous years, the wise man was not permitted to intervene in such plundering of the state. For what could Cato do but raise his voice in unavailing words? At one time he was bustled by the mob and spat upon and forcibly removed from the forum and marked for exile. At another he was taken straight to prison from the Senate chamber. Yeah, okay, Cato, good guy, wise guy, but I don't know about this one here. Like, why did he, and I think he's going to answer this here, but he's basically saying, look, you had Caesar, you had Pompey. Both of them were corrupt. They're going for power. Whoever wins, they're going to be more corrupt anyway. That's going to be the worst choice. So why get involved in this shit anyway? Like, why go through all this? So let's read on. 14. However, we shall consider later whether the wise man ought to give his attention to politics. Meanwhile, I beg you to consider those Stoics who, shut out from public life, have withdrawn into privacy for the purpose of improving men's existence and framing laws for the human race without incurring the displeasure of those in power. The wise man will not upset the customs of the people, nor will he invite the attention of the populace by any novel ways of living. So, it's funny, every philosopher says this, but does not follow this advice, to some degree, right? Socrates, you know what happened to Socrates. He basically was sentenced to death. A lot of philosophers essentially went this way. Seneca eventually did at the end, and so it's interesting. But he makes a good point. It's kind of funny, and it's kind of the same thing, the debate, like I said, about this YouTube channel, is it's like, well, it's good to have the wisdom, but you kind of got to share it, and if you do, you're going to eventually, like, if it is true wisdom, you're going to invoke, the public eye, right? Like, you're going to evoke it, you're going to have some problems, right? So, I don't know, I think this is his mindset here is ideal, but he didn't even really live by it. He couldn't. He wanted to, but he couldn't, right? He couldn't stay out of the limelight because his words were so real. What then? 15. What then? Can one who follows out this plan be safe in any case? I cannot guarantee you this any more than I can guarantee good health in the case of the man who observes moderation, although, as a matter of fact, good health results from such moderation. Sometimes a vessel perishes in harbor, but what do you think happens on the open sea? And how much more beset with danger that man would be who even in his leisure is not secure, if he were busily working at many things. Innocent persons sometimes perish. Who would deny that? But the guilty perish more frequently. A soldier's skill is not at fault if he receives the death blow through his armor. So he's saying this, look, you're coming to me, guys, and you're looking for, like, how can you, like, prolong your life and be safe? First of all, at the beginning of this letter, I just told you, fuck that shit. Like, you're holding on to your life and your body too much, and you're indulging it too much, okay? But then he's saying, like, look at this, okay? I could tell you this is the safer path, and it is, but it doesn't mean shit. Like, sometimes ships get wrecked in the harbor. It's more dangerous out in the open sea, okay? And that's what life is. He's basically telling you this is life. Sorry, but you're in a fucked up world. This is a fucked up place, and it's a fight for survival. But you know what? Let's follow these rules. Let's avoid hatred, jealousy, and scorn, okay? Because if we do that, we're going to be a lot less likely to, be skewered or, flayed alive or, like, torn to pieces, which is pretty fucking bad. So it's pretty good advice, right? He's saying this is the best advice I can give you. Number 16. And finally, the wise man regards the reason for all of his actions, but not the result. Very, very critical. The wise man regards the reason for all of his actions, but not the results. Again, we could go back to poker. We could go back to life as probability here. What he's saying is essentially this. You do the right action because it's the right action. You don't know what the result is, and sometimes the result is not up to you, and sometimes it's random, but you know what? You do the thing that has the 80% probability of succeeding, and 20% of the time it's going to fail, and that's fine. You don't get upset about that. You just say, I'm going to keep on doing the right thing because that's going to lead to the greatest outcome in the end, but I'm going to ignore the outcome. That's trusting the process. And the beginning is in our own power. Fortune decides the issue, but I do not allow her to pass sentence upon myself. You may say, but she can inflict a measure of suffering and of trouble. The highwayman does not pass sentence when he slays. So, let's think about this. When you're talking about the highwayman, what he's talking about? He's talking about marauders. He's talking about people that are like patrolling the highway, robbing people, stealing, killing, right? Murderous thieves. This was a danger back then, right? When you're traveling on a road. And he's saying here is that, he's not passing sentence. He's just the highwayman killing people. He's just doing his job. Just Fortune is just doing her job, right? The fucking dice roll and they land as they land. But here's the thing. When you chose to go down that highway and wear your fucking bling, now you made the choice, right? So he's saying there that, I'm going to have the power over my choices. I don't control the results. The highwayman is there. He's the fucking executioner. Fortune's there. She's going to roll the dice, okay? But I'm going to decide on what action she's going to roll the dice, okay? I'm going to be in control of that. I'm going to have my will. I'm going to have my freedom, and I'm not going to leave it subject to that, okay? So that's the difference there. The highwayman does not pass sentence when he slays. Remember that. That's just a really good phrase to think about. The highwayman does not pass sentence when he slays. So when shit happens to you, you got to say, look, was this some random shit, right? Like, this person did this. Like, it's so easy to say it's their fault. No, they're just being human, doing what the fuck they're a fucked up person. They do some fucked up shit, okay? But you put yourself in the path of that. Did you not? Right? You see what I'm saying? So when shit happens, you got to say, look, what happened here? Why did this outcome, especially when you have a bad outcome, why did it happen? Did it happen because I got unlucky but I did the right thing? Or did it happen because I steered into something that I shouldn't have steered into? Right? That's the thing that you have to realize if you really want to learn lessons from shit that happens in life. Number 17. This is the there's 2 more verses. Now, you are stretching forth your hand for the daily gift. Golden indeed will be the gift with which I shall load you. And inasmuch as we have mentioned gold, let me tell you how its use and enjoyment may bring you greater pleasure. Quote, he who needs riches least enjoys riches most. Author's name, please, you say. Now, to show you how generous I am, it is my intent to praise the dicta of other schools. The phrase belongs to Epicurus or Metrodius or someone of that particular thinking shop. So, real simple quote here. He who needs riches least enjoys riches most. Very true. So, what's the secret to happiness? What's the secret to fulfillment, enjoyment? Is wanting less, right? This is what we've talked about many times, and you'll find this throughout Stoic philosophy. It's not having more, it's desiring less. It's being happy with less. And then when you're happy with less, then the more that you get, the more that it'll be gravy. It'll be awesome, right? And so that's the key thing is, think about what could you be happy with. And sometimes it's good to go without food or to go without water or to go with, go through some hardship, right? So that you can see that it's actually not that bad. And then you can be happy with things, with what you get. Number 18. But what difference does it make who spoke the words? They were uttered for the world. He who craves riches feels fear on their account. No man, however, enjoys a blessing that brings anxiety. He is always trying to add a little more. While he puzzles over increasing his wealth, he forgets how to use it. He collects his accounts. He wears out the pavement in the forum. He turns over his ledger. In short, he ceases to be master and becomes a steward. Farewell. So, really good point here. If you're going to gain wealth, that's great. But here's the thing. If you are desiring it so much that you fear not getting it, and you're having anxiety when you do get it because you fear losing it, and you're spending so much time trying to calculate it and figure out how you can earn just a little bit more, but you're not enjoying it, what's the fucking point? There's no point. You might as well be living on less and enjoying it. That's why for a lot of people I coach, I'm like, look, here's the thing. I can tell you how to get rich, that's fine. But maybe what would make you happier is to just live poorly, but have your time and have your freedom. And that's something, a choice you should think about, right? You're going to work right now, hopefully. If you, well, maybe not, I don't know. But my point is this, it's like you get up, you go to work, you get the paycheck, you say I need it. You don't fucking need it. You want it. You want to live the lifestyle that you have. And maybe you're not enjoying it. And so maybe it's not even fucking worth it. Maybe it'd be better if you're a starving artist, right? Just like scrounging for food, living in, a very small means, maybe working just a small amount of money, making a small amount of money just to get by. Maybe you'd be happier, but you'd have your time, right? You're making a choice. Again, I'm not suggesting that that's a way of life. I'm just saying that that's a better way of life than living on Wall Street, working 80 hours a week, not enjoying it, not having a good time, just counting the money, worrying about losing the money, worrying about lawsuits against you, and worrying about how you can just make more, right? Again, I'm not knocking that either, because you could enjoy that life if you're living it up whole hog. But what I'm saying is that, what he's saying here is that you got to really consider this. Like, what are you doing? Why are you seeking these things, right? And it all comes down to that whole need or desire. Again, riches, what's the quote, right? Simple quote. He who needs riches least enjoys riches most. So do you need them, right? Again, and we can apply this to so many things, right? For you guys, right? For girls, right? A lot of the coaching I do involved in that. He who needs girls most enjoys, or he who needs girls least enjoys girls most. He who needs food least enjoys food most. He who needs whatever it is, fill in the blank, least enjoys it the most. So the question, and probably the goal of Stoicism, of this philosophy, is to get you to the point where you need less. Self-sufficiency. All right, that's all I got for you today. If you haven't already subscribed, make sure you click the subscribe button, and you'll get the next letter when it comes out, only if you see the notification, so you got to hit the bell to do that. I'll talk to you next time. Take care.